So, hello everyone. Welcome to ConvertIAS, and my name is Kshitij. So, guys, as you all know, on 22nd April, UPSC results were out, and we had many achievers this time. Amongst us, we have today Kshitij, whose rank is 58. And without wasting any more time, let's just have a word with him and see what was his journey and what all he had to he had to keep in mind before cracking such a big exam. So, Kshitij, first of all, welcome. Congratulations. I know it's like a huge relief and an achievement for you. Please tell me about your journey and how do you feel right now?
Gee, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today with you. And if I talk about my journey, I have a background in law. I pursued a degree in law from Nalsar University of Law, Hyderabad. After that, I worked at a corporate law firm in Mumbai for roughly two and a half or so years. And during work from home, while I was back home in Bhopal, I decided to pursue the civil service examination. And 2022 was my first attempt, and this was my third attempt for the examination.
Okay, so considering your background in law, since what time do you feel that you were prepared for UPSC? Was it always in your mind, or was it like just while preparing for law and let's just try it? Because there are many students who decide post graduation or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and that was the case with me as well, actually. So neither growing up nor in college did I have a dream of becoming a civil servant. So it was a bit of a late realization for me. And I think COVID was really the turning point for me, that sort of started to look inwards and also understand, start to look outwards towards the society and to see where do I want to see myself going from here. And I
Mhm.
think that was the turning point for me.
So, just how many attempts did you give?
Yeah, this was my third attempt for the examination.
This was your
Yeah.
third. Tell us, how was this attempt different? Your 2024 attempt rather different
Yeah.
than what you pursued earlier.
Yeah, so I think in the 2022 attempt, I made the mistake of sort of making what they call a trial attempt, which is not really a thing, right? So I started preparing in 2022 and wrote the paper in 2022 itself. Of course, I cleared the prelims, but I still was not able to clear the mains due to paucity of time. A 2023 attempt went into rectifying all of those mistakes. But I think by the time this year's attempt came, I think my base was ready in a sense. My base content was ready. I'd done a fair bit of answer writing. So for me, this attempt entirely, I would say, was about marginal improvements and to make improvements as far as possible in every single subject, and to sort of try to make more value addition and write answers as much as possible.
Okay. Kshitij, you've been part of Convert IAS since 2024. Tell me the difference you felt, while preparing or comparing with others. What was the difference you felt? And that point, okay, ho jayega ab.
Yeah, I think mains is all about practice, practice, and practice, right? And your practice cannot be without sort of a sense of direction, right? It's to be oriented in a organized manner. So I think that is what ConvertIAS really helped me with, right? Because I was writing answers on a regular basis and getting them evaluated from the team, trying to incorporate that feedback. So it was, an iterative process that I kept on doing, which really helped me during my second attempt and even my third attempt.
What about the mentorship sessions you received? You got for the entire tenure when you were with Convert IAS. How did that help you in every stage rather?
Yeah, so I took the mentorship sessions before the interview stage, sessions like the DAT discussion session, about service preferences, things like that. So I think that was also a very good jumping off point while I was preparing for the interview.
Can you focus more on your answer writing abilities and how important it becomes in the entire journey, and how the course which you took helped you in decipher the exact thing?
Yeah, so as I said, answer writing is perhaps the most important element of the mains examination, right? Content tends to be more or less the same. So then, equal effort has to be given on how the content is presented, right? So I think one mistake that I made during my 2023 attempt was I sort of had this feeling that I should get decent marks on the strength of my argument itself. So, if I just write cogent arguments, that alone should be enough to fetch good marks. But of course, I did clear the examinations. I'm grateful for that. But I could have done better. That's something I realized later on. And, then you need to incorporate things like diagrams, tables, highlight key points, provide more examples, things like that. And I think that is something that only comes with practice because a lot of times you tend to study those examples, remember those points, but not able to translate them into the examination without good practice. I think that is where ConvertIA steps in. That is how it really helped me sort of practice on a daily basis, revisit my answer that I'm writing, incorporating feedback, and also trying to write better answers based on what I've already written.
So would you say that it was like mix of both your review and evaluation collaborated together? And of course, your, I mean, who is denying you the excess hard work and your dedication towards it?
Yeah, I would say so. I think means, it's in terms of the syllabus, I don't think it's a very difficult syllabus, so to say. It's just a very vast syllabus, and that requires constant revision, right?
Mhm,
And I think that is where the twin elements that you mentioned of revision and of evaluation come in. That it is an iterative process. It's a process that feeds into itself.
mhm. Uh, as a someone who is clear and who has given attempts, what is it that you want to share with all those students, all those aspirants? Actually, aspirant is the right word.
Mhm.
That what should be avoided, what mistakes should be avoided in this entire journey,
Yeah.
especially with your I think mains and everything. What should be avoided?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that needs to be done rather than being avoided, I think, would be to ruthlessly optimize your times between prelims and mains. I think in the 2025 attempt, there is even less time. I think the mains is in August this year. So I think that only makes ruthless optimization even more important, right? Because time management is completely crucial in the main stage. Because you're juggling so many subjects, you're doing your mains answer writing, you're doing your other subjects as well. So I think time management is key. Secondly, I think there is a need to believe in the course that you've adopted, right? Every year there are 1,000 toppers who have 1,000 different strategies, but you
Yeah.
need to figure out for yourself what is going to work best for you. And that is an assessment that the individual can make only for himself or herself, right? And thirdly, I think I would say keep your support system close to yourself, right? Whether it's your family or your friends. I think that is very, very important.
Were there days when you felt कि बस यार छोड़ दो अब होगा नहीं होगा? We have this. I think is every one of us go through that. There are people who are given 5 attempts, 6 attempts. There are people within 2, 3 attempts, and there are people who just crack it in just one attempt. What is that you had this thing going, especially you worked earlier, so
Hmm.
you studied, you did your graduation, you studied, sorry, you worked for some time, and then you decided to take a break. So how difficult was that, because your friends, your batchmates must be working, earning, and then here you are at home. There were days you were like ho jayega, and then there were days you were like hoga nahi hoga. How did
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah, so that FOMO that you mentioned was always there. That you sort of feel like your life is in a state of suspended animation, where everyone around you is moving forward, but you're sort of stuck in the same place until you see the end of the tunnel, of course. So I think that feeling of doubt is always there, particularly because there are few seats, lacks of candidates, a very vast syllabus, a very punishing process. At any stage, if you're out, it's just a year's worth of wait. Uh, but I think that is where the role of your support system comes in, the role of your positive habits come in. So I used to practice Hatha Yoga on a daily basis. I also try to meditate on and off. And I think in cases where feel like things are sort of slipping out of your hands, I think people should be open to the idea of seeking professional help for their mental health. Because I know I did during my first attempt, and that was very helpful for me.
That's a very important point you mentioned, which very few of us actually, mention about the importance of mental health. Well, kudos to you that you mentioned about it. You mentioned earlier that your option was law. Uh,
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Your option, your graduation was in law. How did you decide to, pursue law? Because it has a vast syllabus. Because you have paper one, paper B. It has, everything. Your constitutional, your IPC, your administrative law, everything is there. How did you decide that you'll be able to finish it or revise it entirely on your own? And how did you prepare about your, because there are students who have kept law as an optional, but they still feel whether this is lengthy. How should we able to do it? Can you just throw some light on that?
Yeah, so you're very right to mention that law is perhaps one of the longest optionals. I think per paper there is at least 3,000 pages of reading. So it comes to around 6 to 7,000 pages of reading, both papers included. Uh, but I think the reason why I took law option was because of my background in law. And when I look at the previous year question papers, I realized that I have a degree of familiarity with all of these topics. Of course, our style of learning in college was slightly different. In college, where we follow what is called the case law method,
Yeah.
rather than focusing more on directly on first principles. And the paper tends to follow a first principles approach. But I think because I had this degree of familiarity with it, I decided to take law optional. And I think for all candidates, I think it's, of course, taking option subject is a combination of factors, right? Like the length of the subject, your interest in the subject, availability of guidance. I think what is really interesting about law option is that it really connects very well with a lot of other parts of the syllabus. So your
Mm.
GS2 polity, which is 50% of polity, gets covered fairly well. You
True.
get these ideas of constitutional principles, administrative principles, principles of natural justice, which are helpful in the essay paper and the ethics papers. And law by itself is such a dynamic subject that everyone in the interview board wants to discuss some law or the other. There's always something, some activity. It's always in a state of flux. So I think that is very interesting. So law is not just about the optional papers itself, but I think a broader paradigm in which all subjects of the paper can be situated.
What about your answer writing regarding optional? How did you evaluate it then? Or was it
Yeah,
something that it already that you're already done in your graduation, so it was at par? Because there are certain universities who, well, still we have to write answers and pages and pages of answers. But considering you're from Nalsar,
yeah,
you said, right? Yeah,
yes.
so you're from Nalsar, so I assume the National Law School would have different perspectives. So how did it help in your answer writing that?
Yeah, so you're completely right about that. I think government exams generally tend to follow the pattern of not just quality but also quantity. But NASA was not like that at all. So, we used to keep our answers concise as possible. In fact, we were told to keep them concise.
Mhm.
But I think in terms of answer writing, my 2022 attempt, as I said, was a bit rushed. So to the point that the first law answer that I wrote was the mains paper that year. So I had done zero answer writing before that year. So I tried to rectify that in the 2023 attempt. Of course, there was degree of familiarity. I knew the broad pattern that I had to follow. The simplest thing about law option is that you know what you have to write. You have to write those key cases. You have to write those key articles. Maybe throw in a quote or two, and you're done. So then it is not. I think evaluation का role थोड़ा कम हो जाता है in law option because you know exactly what is to be written.
Yeah.
It's just that you have to go ahead and write it. So
Mhm.
that is the kind of practice you can just always do at home and take some time out for that.
Kshitij, what was your daily routine in general? Like, was it literally more than 12 hours, or you focused on quality, or what was it? Including
Yeah.
your,
So
extra activities. Maybe you mentioned about mental health, so I assume you were busy with other stuff also, which will obviously help. So, what was your daily routine? Because this is something a candidate who's preparing always thinks कि बस पूरा दिन एक ही जगह बैठना है, we can't move. So, what was it about?
yeah. So the structure that I followed was like a 9 to 9 sort of a structure. So I was
Okay.
working in a corporate law firm and during COVID, where I would start my day at 9 and I would shut around 8:39. So I carried that 9 to 9 structure in my UPSC preparation as well. But this was not like an uninterrupted 9 to 9. So I would try to get within those 12 hours. I'll try to get 8 to 10 hours of good study time. And this period would include my sort of tea breaks, my lunches, things like that also. But that is, I picked up my book at 9 o'clock and I closed everything off by 9 o'clock in the evening.
I hope your firm is not listening to this, how you manage time in between. But then there are people, there are aspirants who would, simultaneously study, prepare for UPSC and work. Then there are who would leave job and then, dedicate their entire time to it. And we know stories, as you are like one of the biggest example, we know stories from both sides. So this is also something, there are people who are working and they were like, how can we manage the both times for work as well
Hmm.
as for study simultaneously? What would you tell them?
So actually, I had moved on from a position at my previous role when I started preparing for the examination. I don't know if I'm the best suited to give this advice, but I think key points that I can perhaps mention is that you need to eke out time wherever you can. And then again, it connects to the same idea of ruthless optimization, right?
Mm.
So even if it's 2 to 3 hours in the day, maybe 1 or 2 hours before going to work or 2 3 hours after coming to work, weekends are usually a very good time. What I've heard from candidates who have been working throughout the preparation process is that you need to use your weekends very well. So
Mhm.
the weekends you need to try to max out the number of hours that you get on Saturdays and Sundays, right? And I mean, of course, there have also been toppers who used to sort of watch YouTube videos while commuting or while in the gym. So I think you need to find ways for yourself.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So was your answer writing practice literally from day one? Did you start with from day one, or was it like, let me just study the entire thing, take it, first MCQs, or prelims oriented, and then start? Or was it like that you had decided, answer writing is something that you would, focus from day one?
Right. So my preparation ended up being a little unstructured during my first attempt because I started in 2022 and got into the 2022 cycle itself. So in those 4 or 5 months before my first prelims, I was only able to manage time for studying for prelims. So it was a bit unstructured in that sense. Other than that, I think there was also an element of procrastination,
Yeah.
right? Because answer writing, there tends to be a lot of inertia, right? You kept on delaying it, thinking that I should study a bit, I should refine my content a little bit, and then I'll approach answer writing, which I don't, in retrospect, I don't think is the most productive approach. So I think if I have to make a suggestion to any candidate going forward, I would say ki try to finish one main subject and then try to attempt PYQs based on that subject. So, you study a subject and then write PYQs. So just keep on following that approach.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was your approach regarding, writing essays? This is something which students still feel about, aspirants still feel about, ki, what extent should we write? How exactly search? So we have different kind of essays.
Yeah.
So again, when did you, start focusing on that? And again, your practice with ConvertIAS, how did it, made it to the point? No, this is how I would be,
Mhm.
improving, right? Because you mentioned in the initial beginning only that this is something you really want to improve. You still think there's scope of improvement, which I guess very few would agree to it.
I think for the essay paper, I used to incline more towards philosophical topics. So UPSC it traditionally used to give you a choice of topics between sort of more fact-based prompts and philosophical prompts. So I used to follow philosophical prompts as far as possible. And my approach towards essay was very open-ended. So of course, I did my essay writing practice. But in terms of number of essays, I think that again is a very subjective thing. So I used to write maybe 5 or 6 essays before every means, and then need based. So if I'm given the kind of feedback, if I feel I need to write more essays, then I would of course write more essays. But thankfully, the feedback on my essays was almost always positive. So I didn't feel the need to write a lot of essays. And in terms of preparation, I don't think you can't really prepare so much for the essay paper. It's just that you need to constantly expose yourself to new ideas, new philosophical concepts. So, sort of to really keep your mind open when you're studying papers like the ethics paper or principles of constitutional law, things like that, because that ultimately is your fodder material for the essay paper. One thing that aspirants can prepare beforehand, I think, is the structure of the essay that they're going to follow. So I used to keep my structure very simple. There is this advice generally that you should not break up your essays into headings and subheadings. But I always used to do that because I wanted to give the examiner, the reviewer, that sense of clarity when they read my essay. So I think the structuring is that one aspect that you can sort of fine tune for yourself.
Hmm. Kshitij, not taking much of your time. What is the advice now? I know those who crack their exam and those who couldn't clear it, they have some kind of advice of do's and don'ts for aspirants. What is that you want to give the advice to all those viewers who are watching and, of course, future people, who would be targeting this exam? What is that you want to give?
Yeah, I think the key advice that I would like to give is that they should stay consistent, right? Because this examination is not a 100-meter sprint, it's a marathon. It tends to take a very long time. And ultimately, you need to keep yourself motivated however possible, right? Of course, as we earlier discussed, not every day is the same, right?
Yeah.
There would be days where you would hit your targets of 8 to 10 hours, whatever that looks for you. There'll be days where you struggle to sort of get out of bed and manage to read the newspaper also on that day. So, of course, there are days like that. But it's sort of like chipping away at a mountain, right? That you need to do it consistently over a period of time rather than trying to do it all at once. So then I would say that your dedication and sort of a commitment to yourself is what will take you forward.
Before we end, you just mentioned about newspaper reading. Just tell me quickly about what was your target regarding newspaper reading, and this is then we will wrap up. Just tell me, how would you read newspaper? What was your target regarding newspaper reading, especially editorials?
Right. So I used to follow the Hindu,
Yeah.
but I just want to sort of put it out there upfront for all aspirants that it doesn't matter which paper you follow, because it's one of the questions that a lot of aspirants worry too much about. So it really does matter which paper you follow, right? But I think because of my background in law and in corporate law particularly, I had a decent reading speed. So what I used to follow is a 20-20 approach. I would take 20 minutes to sort of skim the paper and read the key and identify the key articles that I want to read, and another 20 minutes to then actually go ahead and read those articles.
Mhm.
So this 20-20 approach worked well for me. I was able to cover the entire paper pretty much for prelims with this approach. Now, this can, of course, look different for other aspirants. It could be 30-30, it could be 40-50, whatever it is, right? But you need to decide that I need to finish reading the paper within this X amount of time. Because I think initially candidates struggle with this. I often hear that, it took me 3 hours to finish the paper today or 4 hours to finish the paper today. So I think by, again, this idea of ruthless optimization, you need to figure out how much time you want to give something.
All right. Thank you so much, Kshitij. And again, huge congratulations to you. You have achieved the, what your dream was, and I wish you all the best. Our entire team wishes you, best of luck. And, just be a good source of inspiration. And what you mentioned actually is very important about, how strategizing is important. Your being consistent is important, which is something we, wither away from our uh,
Yes.
whoever practices, we all been in this race. So thank you so much, Kshitij, and best wishes to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.